No, I was just gonna sit here. I was gonna pop down after you. Yeah, I'll sit here. Totally cool right here. Okay. All right, good morning, Wildcats. How are you? Excited? You awake? You ready to be here for Alumni Weekend? Jeez, sounds like my Monday morning academic class in here. It's kind of tired. It's rough. So welcome. My name is Chef John. I'm currently one of the nutrition professors here. I teach in the College of Culinary Arts, obviously, Department of Culinary Nutrition. I am an alum myself. I graduated in 03. Yes, all right. And I spent 10 years in the military after graduating here as a registered dietitian. So I did everything from health, wellness, med-surg, ICU, quickly learned I hate hospital settings. And I found out about the world of sports nutrition, so I jumped literally into that. And last 6 years of my career was spent working in sports nutrition with special operations, infantry units here deployed. And my wife was like, we're done moving. We moved 6 times, 10 years. She's like, that's it, I'm done, get a real job. So my executive chef at the hospital, my last duty assignment, was an alum as well from North Attleboro. Was military his whole career, retired. He was like a second dad to me. He's like, hey, see if JWU's hiring. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're never hiring. I mean, you have to like be born there to work there. And he's like, stop being stupid, just apply. And I did, and my department chair, who retired a couple years ago, she called me back in 10 minutes. She's like, you're hired. I'm like, this was like the worst resume ever. I feel bad even sending it to you guys. So I've been back here teaching now for 5 years. We have a great panel of chefs that are restaurant chefs that work for TV shows and have appeared on TV shows. So the reason why I'm hosting is, I guess, for 90 seconds a day, I'm a local celebrity here. I have a cooking segment on NBC 10's Changing the Way the World Eats. So they thought, hey, you'd be perfect to host this panel with TV people. I'm like, I'm a real TV person, but all right. No, stop. So let's get started. We're gonna, other than me being up here for a minute, we're gonna keep this real informal. I have some questions for them. They've seen these questions beforehand, so as not to scare them. But I really want to make this as interactive as possible. So once we get through these canned questions, let's ask some questions you guys may have. All right, think about that. We have an hour, so let's get personal. Let's make them cry. We're taping this. What didn't appear on Food Network will appear on, Channel 10 News here. So let's start off with Chef David right here up front. He's a native of Bristol, Rhode Island. All right. He began cultivating his passion for cooking at a very early age, he said. While he was a student here, now correct me, but while he was a student here, he got the opportunity to cook for World Cup. 2006, he went over to Germany, cooked for VIP boxes, cooked for about 100 athletes, you said. Absolutely nuts, right? So I would love to have you as a student now for my sports nutrition class, but he did that before I came back here. And after graduating, he got a position at Castle Hill in Newport, so very nice place. And then you were an exchange chef, right? You went to South Africa for 11 months?
Yeah, Dubai, Bahrain.
Jeez.
Got to travel around a little bit.
It's a hard life. Hard life,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
Yep.
So now he's back home in the Northeast. He's up in Maine, and he has the general manager and chef at Shipyard Brew Pub, all right? Shipyard Commissary Kitchen, and then Regatta Room. So Elliott, Maine, you just closed on a house there yesterday.
Yep.
Congratulations. So, and then he was on Cutthroat Kitchen. So despite multiple sabotages, he successfully made his way to the final round. So that's awesome. Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you.
So next we have Chef Stacy. She is the executive chef at Artistry on the Green, correct? She is also a native New Englander, and she has a culinary global perspective. Now, you spent time in East Asia and Europe, or you just like those flavors?
I travel a lot.
Travel a lot?
I try to.
Yeah.
When you work 80 hours a week, you got to take at least 2 weeks a year and go do something different or you go crazy.
So now you worked at the Market by Jean Georges upstairs on the Square and Liquid Art House as well. And you were on season 12 of Bravo's Top Chef.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Chef Josh, who is our pastry chef on the panel. Ooh. Now, you are currently in Boston as an executive chef up there.
Well, just outside of Boston in Cambridge.
Okay, and you were on Food Network's Holiday Baking Championship, right? So this was, we were just talking, obviously, right before this. You were taping for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we were there for 14 days. I mean, as contestants were sent home as they were eliminated, but I made it to the finale, so yeah, 14 days.
That's crazy. So you spent 3 years at the Four Seasons in Atlanta.
Correct, yeah.
And you've returned back here, and you're working up at Harvard Square's Harvest Restaurant as the executive pastry chef.
I'm originally from Rhode Island, and I missed my family, so I'm back up here.
Seems to be a common thread on the panel right here. Next, we have Chef Michele. So she started cooking at an early age alongside her grandmother. Now she came here. You did culinary arts and food service management, right? The youngin on the panel, she graduated in 2016.
Yeah.
So you got the opportunity to intern on The Chew.
Yes.
And then you went over to Food Network, worked behind the scenes on Chopped.
On Chopped, yeah.
And now you're back on The Chew as their food stylist.
Yes.
So you're working alongside some very famous chefs on a daily basis, and you were saying how the menu changes all the time.
Yep.
So that's one of the unique things you love is the opportunity to always challenge yourself there.
Yes. Yeah, it's a little crazy. Some of the chefs, they're the best, but at the end of the day, Michael Simon may change something 5 seconds before a segment, and then we're running to go get that. So it's a little crazy, but it's a lot of fun and it's rewarding. So it's great to.
Are you hiring?
Maybe.
Now, last but not least on the end who just spoke is Chef Adam. So you are the chef owner of the hopefully soon to open Coconut Club in Union Market in the District of Washington, D.C. So you moved to D.C. after 10 years with Barcelona Restaurant Group. You're originally from Connecticut, so still Northeast. We'll take that. Not quite Rhode Island, but it's all right. So you've run restaurants for a bunch of time, and then you were the 4-time Grand Chopped champion as well. So,
Thank you very much.
so welcome, panel. We're very excited to have you here. I think this is an awesome opportunity for alum, and I wish we had more of our current students in the room to hear from you guys and learn from your experiences. So I'm going to sit and be comfortable as opposed to behind this podium. So my first question to you guys is, what originally brought you to Johnson Wales? What made you want to pursue your career in culinary arts? And while you were here, I know you were talking about visiting classes a couple minutes ago. What was your dream job as a student here? What did you think, this is what I want to do when I graduate? So we'll just go down the line.
So my brother took me exactly right down this hall here, and I never thought a college could be a cooking college. So I was very excited I didn't want to go to regular college, and I just kind of wanted to work in the restaurants, and my brother kind of brought me in and walked me down the hall here, and I just remember it just being the coolest place I've ever seen in my life. And I registered that later that week, and yeah, it's been awesome ever since. So it was a good, awesome experience to be here. Yeah.
So what was your dream job? What did you think, well, as you're a student here, this is what I want to do?
I mean, I've always wanted to be a chef since I was younger. So when I came here and saw the cool classrooms and stuff, and I just, I knew that this was going to excel me to the next step in my cooking career path. So
Cool.
yeah.
Chef Stacy?
Well, I'll start off by saying that I am a fat kid at heart. So any place where I can, learn, get a degree, make my family proud, and still eat is super cool with me. So I didn't come back to college until I was in my 20s, so it's a little different for me. Everyone else was younger. I chose Johnson & Wales over the CIA because I took a tour here and I took a tour at the CIA, and I liked how a little more down to earth it was here and a little more comfortable. Seeing the classes as you walk through, it was just super cool. Plus, I could drive. I didn't have to move, which was great. My dream job coming here, I mean, honestly, I came here just for the knowledge. There was no, oh my God, I'm going to graduate and I'm going to go do this and open a restaurant. It wasn't that. It was like, I'm going to come here, I'm going to learn as much as I can, and then I'm going to go back in the restaurant, because I only ever worked in restaurants. So there wasn't really a dream job in mind. The dream was just to sort of take as much knowledge as I could from here to make me better at what I love to do.
Cool. Chef Josh?
Yeah, okay, so I guess I first was introduced to Johnson & Wales when I was in high school. I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I know I loved art, and I also loved to eat. And there wasn't really anyone in my family or in my life that was in the food industry, so it just wasn't even on my radar as something that existed. And it was actually Food Network that kind of put that idea in my head. Ace of Cakes was like, seeing that was like, whoa, that's something I can do with my life. So I looked into Johnson & Wales. I came here, I think like most pastry students, thinking I'm going to be a cake decorator. And then, yeah, I ended up learning so many more things while I was here, and it opened up a lot of doors and kind of showed me the world of pastry is so much more than what I first thought.
Nice.
So for myself, I also love to eat. I obsess about food all the time. And growing up, I was the same way, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to exactly do when I was graduating high school. So I had a tour of Johnson & Wales, and I realized this could be a really cool place to be. And I knew that there was options here, which I thought was really great. Because coming from visiting CIA, like you said, too, it was all just culinary. And I was like, you know what, this is a great school, which God forbid if I didn't truly love what I was doing, there was options. And it's great to have those because you don't want to just like pigeonhole yourself into one thing. So I ended up coming here and I learned so much working in a few restaurants in high school and stuff like that. I was able to come here and actually learn the technique and learn all that stuff from awesome chefs that we have. And I really thought, you know, being here, I was going to work in restaurants and I thought that was going to be great. But then after interning at a few, I thought, you know what, I don't know. I have so much respect for all the restaurant chefs, but I kind of wanted to do something a little bit more exciting. And like you said, too, seeing all these TV shows, I was like, that's so cool. But I didn't realize that there was a whole team behind the scenes until I ended up interning at the Chew and working on these other shows, which I found out later on that this was totally the correct path. And I wanted to do something like that.
Awesome.
So I probably have more of a little life story behind it, and how a lot of people end up here is I went to Syracuse for undergrad. I was there for a year and I had a blast, guys. Really, really a lot of fun. My parents didn't agree, so we sort of made a collaborative decision to come home, and I spent a year working in a restaurant. So I had a hobby as a kid. I liked to cook. My stepfather was an amazing cook, but like Josh, I don't have any family that was in the industry. I had family and friends who had owned restaurants and told me, listen, this is a really hard industry. You are not that. Like, you don't have the makeup to do this. Like, this is not your background. This is not. But I needed to get a job and figure it out. I said I would show up every day, and that was really the start of it. So I worked in a restaurant for a year. I am not the story that I started off as a dishwasher. I was very fortunate. I started off plating desserts that I didn't make, but at the same time, it was an entry to perspective, to looking around the line and going, I want to know how to do that, and I want to know how to do that. And I'm sure we'll get to questions later. That hasn't changed as far as how people should perceive their jobs. But anyway, worked in a restaurant for a year and then decided I want to go to culinary school, did the tour of CIA, and here, simply put, I needed somewhere to work. Providence provided a city for me that CIA didn't. There were a lot of great restaurants here and some chefs that I wanted to work for. So I went to class from, 6 or 7 a.m. to 1, and then went to work until midnight, and did that for 2 years. So that is why I came here. And I came here with an open mind to, well, I shouldn't say open mind. I probably was every other kid here who was like, I'm going to open a restaurant with 30 seats and I'm going to cook food. And that's a funny thing to say today. Now that I go to open a restaurant, if I had 30 seats, I probably would only be able to afford myself. So anyway, that's kind of how I ended up here, and we move forward.
Cool. Well, we'll stick with you and we'll work back this way. While you were here, Now, we spoke a little bit earlier about classes that we specifically remember that, this was really cool. Was there anything here as a student that you think helped prepare you for being on television? Or if not, what should we add to the curriculum?
Well, I would say I wouldn't add anything to the curriculum to tell a student to strive to be on television. Let me first off by saying I watched Emerald, Lydia, and Chefs of the World. That was all we had when I was a kid. I'm 38. Okay, so I'm really outdating myself here, but at the same time, my stepfather and I loved to watch those shows. I didn't know who the chefs were. They were French-speaking people with translation, but this food was just unbelievably gorgeous and food I'd never been exposed to in a restaurant. The idea of television this is all a bonus. And I'm sure, again, we'll get to this stuff as how I feel about it and opportunity and whatever it is. But it's not the goal. And let me tell you today is I still put my pants on in my chef coat every day and go to work. And, everybody thinks you're going to do all these things and you're going to make all this money. I'm struggling like everybody else. And I wake up every day and work really hard. And the shows did a couple things for me, but doesn't change your life introspectively, if you will. So I would say for the curriculum is just keep their focus on work and the job and really what it is. This is all fairy tales and it's kind of you won the lottery as far as a job. I'm sure there's a million people that would love to work on the Chew. So for me, really coming here, it was a focus of just working hard and figuring out the industry and did I want to do hotels? Did I want to do private chefing? Did I want to do restaurants? Did I want to do into styling? And I tried everything in my career to figure out where I wanted to go. And I have a sickness because restaurants called me. And it's just kind of the way it goes. So for students, curriculum.
A lot of people have that same sickness.
Yeah, I think TV's great and it can do things for you, but I think it's the wrong frame of mind for a young student to think that coming to school is going to get them on TV and TV is going to equal something else. And I'm sure everybody else has careers here that will say there's no real shortcuts to success. There's few people that they know the right people, they know whatever. But realistically, I think all of these guys can speak on it as well, that hard work is hard work, and that's kind of, I don't know. Johnson & Wales, to me, it was more about the discipline. This is what I needed, so I'm speaking for myself. Waking up on time, having a clean uniform, punctuality, accountability, those kind of things, to me, are so translatable to what we do, and I am dying to find people to hire that can just do that. I'll teach people how to cook that are enthusiastic, but showing up on time, being those kind of things are just really, really important. But I could talk forever, so I'm going to pass. Yeah.
So for me, it's a little different because I'm behind the scenes, but I feel like the same exact way with the discipline and all the basics that we learned here. You have to have the fire inside of you as well to kind of push yourself. But I think the basics and learning the techniques that we learned in class, that's something you can't, it really helps to be here and learn that here. And from the mentors that I've made at Johnson & Wales, for example, I would say the class that I really enjoyed the most, which was super realistic, was the bistro class with Chef Griffin. He's awesome. I love him. But something like that, putting yourself in a high pressure environment, which everyone can relate to, obviously in a restaurant too, that's what I deal with day in and day out, super high intensity because we film live to tape on the TV show. So they'll be saying 30 seconds, we're running and doing things and grabbing what they need last second. So when you can stay calm, cool, and collected and not have them see you sweat is something that's super important. And I feel like here at Johnson & Wales, you kind of always had to present yourself in a way in front of these chefs as well. And that's something that you couldn't really learn anywhere else. And I would credit the school to that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Just to kind of follow up, I feel like as far as my experience on Food Network and the reason that I wanted to go in film was, it's like a bonus. It's like a little add-on to what I'm doing. It was a chance for me to kind of go and show what I'm doing to the world, so people who wouldn't normally see what I'm doing. And being here at Johnson & Wales, my focus was never, I want to be on TV. It was, I want to do what I'm passionate about, and I want to share that. And I think what was really cool about kind of how I got introduced into the culinary world with Food Network was I got to see it on TV and I was inspired. And I wanted that opportunity to kind of give back and kind of show that to other people who wouldn't normally see kind of behind the scenes in a kitchen and how hard we all work. As far as being Johnson & Wales preparing me for that, I mean, I tell people that Johnson & Wales is a great foundation. It kind of gives you the basic skills of showing up on time. When I tell people who aren't in the culinary world that I was waking up in the morning ironing a uniform, they were like, "What?" And yeah, it just kind of instills this sense of responsibility that we use every day in the kitchen. So.
Samesies, I guess. Johnson & Wales should not ever change their curriculum to prepare people to do at least a competition show, because there is no preparation you can do to do any of these competition shows. It's extremely difficult and it's extremely different than what you do on a daily basis. I think what the focus should be is, again, like they all said, getting people to be dedicated, getting people to, or students to, not care about who knows their name. Who cares? Your food speaks for itself. It doesn't mean anything, the name behind it. I mean, 90% of my guests don't care that my name's on the bottom of the menu, and they don't care that, well, some of them care about TV, but not all of them, because that's not life. Life is showing up to work every day at 7 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 11 o'clock at night and being so tired, you say to yourself, I don't know if I'm going to make it home tonight, but I'm really going to try. So I guess, I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't think the curriculum, and especially what I saw last year when I visited classrooms, I mean, the curriculum is so much different than when I was here, and it's so much better. I'm actually jealous. But I don't think they should change anything. It prepared me to be a good chef. It prepared me to want to continue to be better at what I do every day, and I think that's the most important thing that it can instill in students.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. I mean, I agreed with what everybody said. Johnson & Wales basically gave me the foundations to prepare myself for an opportunity like this, to be on television. I think of it just as a bonus, and it wasn't an opportunity for, I mean, it wasn't something that was going to swing my career into something, different. It was just basically a bonus and an opportunity for me to just do what I do every day on TV. And yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't change anything at all with the curriculum as well. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll make sure our curriculum committee knows this, so that way I have to do less work next year. Okay. Let's just, if you can, I know this wasn't one of the canned questions, but if you could just, I think it was interesting for me when we were having our little discussion beforehand, describe how long the show was, what went on behind the scenes, the hours of camera, interviews. I think each show obviously is different, so I think it would be interesting for the audience to hear the differences between the shows, what went into it, how long you were there for, before we have other questions.
Yeah, so Cutthroat was filmed in LA. We actually just filmed for 3 days. It was basically, the first day was a full day of cooking. Second day was another full day of cooking. And then the last day, the third day, was about 6 hours of me sitting in a room and basically asking me, like, okay, so the first challenge, you went through this. How did you feel? And they just kind of drill you for 6 hours straight. And it was intense. But it just came with it, and the experience was amazing. When we first got to meet Alton Brown, that was the first time he was walking down the stairs. That's the first time you met him. It was kind of intense, and I didn't even think of that, to be totally honest with you. When it happened, I was like, oh my God, it's gonna happen. I was like freaking out, but the experience was just amazing. The crew was fun. We had a great time. We ended up going out after in LA and eating street food with them and stuff. So it was a blast, and they were a younger crew, so it was just fun. Yeah, it was a great experience. So.
What was worse, the challenges with the sabotages or the interviews?
I think the interviews were worse, because I'm not, I like to be behind the scenes cooking, you know. So it was kind of putting me out of my element, you know. But it was a fun experience, yeah, for sure.
Top Chef. I think the first time I was gone was 2.5 to 3 months of filming. Each segment, I mean, if any of you have ever watched a show, I never did before I did it, so I was totally not prepared. But like the first half of the show is a full 13 to 18 hours of filming. The second half of one episode is a day or two of filming, full 13, 18 hours. So I was gone for 2.5, 3 months, came back for a month, and then spent a month in Mexico. It was grueling. It's you have no communication with the outside world. You do not have your phone. You do not have your computer. You do not have any of your books. They give you a notebook and a pen, and that's it. And all you know is the people around you. You make friends really quickly with the other people on the show. And never mind the interviews, you know. So you film one segment, which takes, you know, anywhere between 2 to 3 days just to film one episode. But now you're in interviews for a full day and a half, and you know, there's so many people on the show. Your interview time slot could be midnight, 1 o'clock, and you know you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning with cameras in your face. Not fun. You know, so it took a lot out of you. You become very disconnected from what reality is, and you sort of end up in this bubble. So it was quite crazy.
Now, he mentioned the first time he saw Alton Brown was coming down the stairs. How much interaction did you have with the hosts?
So Padma, none. She nope. She couldn't be bothered. Tom Colicchio is, like, before I went on the show, of course, you're not supposed to tell anyone, but I have to tell my restaurant. Like, what am I going to say? No, I'm just going to be gone for 2.5 months. And a couple of the girls I worked with was like, oh, my God, I have such a crush on Tom Colicchio. And I was like, what? No. I get it now. I get it. He was the most absolute nicest man I've ever met in my life. He was there even when we weren't filming, when the cameras were shut off. He's constantly there to just, like, pick you up and be like, hey, you know what? That looks super cool. Or, you know, that smells amazing. What are you doing there? So he was awesome. And
I worked for Tom at Grandma's Tavern, and I can tell you, I'll attest to that. That
he's the nicest
he's an
man.
incredible man. Yeah,
So
really great guy.
I mean, there was one point where, you know, it was when there was still a lot of us on the show and we're doing this quick fire, and everyone's trying to use molecular crap and
He hates that stuff.
yeah, all that stuff. And me, I'm old school. I believe 100% that if you can't cook the way people have been cooking for thousands of years, then what are you doing, right? You don't need some, I mean, I do use some of the molecular stuff. I dabble. But anyway, so he comes to everyone, he stops the filming, and he says, what are you doing? Like, why isn't anyone just cooking? And here I am, you know, searing a steak while everyone's sous videing a steak. And he's like, look, just cook. That's all we want to see is real cooking, because there's this expectation when you're on there that you have to push boundaries and you have to do all these things that shows that you know what you're doing. But in reality, the things I learned here, you know, showed that I knew what I was doing. I knew how to cook. So it's interesting. I could go on for hours, trust me.
I didn't realize you were gone for months.
Months. So it was terrible. It was really bad. Because I was an executive chef at the time with no sous chef. So it was like...
Now, did you still have a job when you came back?
I did. Well, the owners of the restaurant I worked at the time were the ones that pushed me to do it, and my wonderful husband. I didn't want to. I didn't want to do the show because I didn't care. I don't care. Like, I just didn't care. I didn't want my name out there. I'm a behind-the-scenes cook. Like, I like to be back and down and dirty and doing what I'm doing. So they pushed me to go. So they were completely understandable. But it was difficult. My husband at the time was deployed overseas. So here I am with no communication. constantly going to the producer going, hey, you have his sergeant's contact information. Like, just let me know he's okay. And they wouldn't do that.
Wow.
So, I had a family member that had brain surgery at the time when I was filming, and my mom kept trying to call because you can only give the number to one person. So, of course, my mom. But they wouldn't tell me. So all of this stuff is happening in real life, and you're just stuck in this bubble of, oh my God, did I make that sauce right? Oh my God, everyone in the world is going to see this, and I'm going to look like an idiot, like I don't know what I'm doing. So it's really a very surreal thing, and it's hard to, when you're gone for that long, it's hard to come back to reality.
What's the reason why they didn't let you know what was going on with your family?
They didn't want you to know anything that could affect your personality or the way. So they cut you off from the outside world. So they, and I don't want to talk too negative about Top Chef because I do like some of the, I like some of the things, but trust me, I don't like a lot of things. But they cut you off so that all you know is this little bubble, right? So what that does is it tends to, like in a restaurant, if you work during the holidays, you work, 4 weeks straight with the same people every day, 18 hours a day, you get into a fight.
Yeah.
Emotions run high, the drama starts. And then for them, that's where the real TV starts. It's like,
I think in why we're here today, the difference probably we're all going to talk about, but that's production.
Yeah.
So what she dealt with on Top Chef is truly production versus maybe some of our experiences. That's kind of when I hear her say that, I cringe at the idea of not being able to see the outside world for 3 months.
There were times where you see it on the episode where they'll bring in all this food, and here you're at the house, everyone make dinner. The cameras shut off. That food goes away, and in comes like McDonald's. So it's this weird sort of messing with your head type of manipulation that makes you crazy. It makes you question everything. It's crazy.
That's where the good ratings come into play because that's what they want to get is those emotions.
Yes.
So, interesting. Josh.
Yeah, okay, my story's not quite that intense. So we filmed, I was on the Holiday Baking Championship on Food Network, and we filmed for 2 weeks. We weren't cut off from the world, but it was intense. I work in a kitchen, I work 70, 80 hours a week. I'm used to it. But this was like a whole new stress level. Like the time clocks were real. We were doing, once we got kind of into the swing of it, we were doing 2 challenges a day. So they were like throwing stuff at you, and you would just jump right into it and just have to have an idea, put your all into it, remember to smile. That was something I forgot a lot. I remember like when I work in a kitchen, I'm in my zone, you're working, you're doing what you do. And then now it's like, okay, you also have to do it in front of a camera, and you have to present yourself, and you have to talk, and you have to communicate with the other people around you because you're making TV. And that was a new experience for me. So that was like an added pressure. And it was funny, before I went on the show, I watched some previous seasons, and there was like a lot of contestants who would break down and cry. And I was like, wow, that's embarrassing. And then once I got to the show, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get why people cry. This is intense. I was like, okay, we're going to be on TV. They want us to look good. We'll do maybe 8 hours a day.
I cried like every time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it got to this point where like my friends were being eliminated from a show, and like you're working 14 hours a day, putting everything you have into like the product that you're making, and then you're getting judged, and they sit there for like 15 minutes saying every good thing and every bad thing about the dish you make, and then you do it again, and then they judge you again, and then you sit in a room for 4 hours, and you talk about your feelings, and they ask you questions, and
I would not be a good contestant.
Yeah,
not at all. But,
and it
nope.
was very unique, and yeah, you're in this kind of like alternate reality of like, this is not the real world. And yeah, I broke down and cried one time. Luckily, it was not on camera. But yeah, I hope, did I touch on the question? What was the question again?
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, that was pretty much my experience. It was really cool, though. Everything, the end result, once they put it together, I was really happy with. I felt like the show that I picked, I wasn't really looking for a show with too much. I know Top Chef kind of plays up the drama. It was a holiday baking show, so everyone was really friendly. There was like no backstabbing, or like everyone was kind of just very uplifting and worked together, which was cool.
Awesome. Now, can you tell us about everything that goes behind the scenes on the show?
On the show.
On the show?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
you were
I
describing
didn't know if you were saying that.
waking up at 4 a.m. every day. And,
Yes. So, well, really quick, the funny thing is, though, when I worked at Chopped for a year, I was behind the scenes. So I would see all of these chefs, like, in the competition. I'm like, I would be the one behind the scenes with the whole culinary production team. And I'm like, we would, like, say, like, oh, my God, I feel bad for him. Oh, my God, what happened? Like, we would be, like, kind of, like, talking about it. So it's funny to hear, you know, one side of it, and then I got to see the other side. But on the Chew now, because that's my full-time job, a typical week is Monday through Friday. Mondays are our days to test the recipes. So our team is pretty much split into two. We have a culinary production team that writes the recipes, and then we execute all of that in the kitchen. So it's 4 girls, so it's an all-girls kitchen, which is really cool. And we're all in our 20s. We're all young. We all have a great time, and we're all actually friends outside. So Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are when we film the shows. So it's 2 shows a day. So on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm up like 4 a.m., and I get to work by 5. So our show usually starts at 8. So we're there prepping everything that we've tested on Monday, and hopefully get approved by the chefs for the show that day. So Tuesday morning, we're up in Michael Simon's dressing room. We're like, please, sometimes they don't want to talk to us. Sometimes they want to keep the door closed. So it's really hard to work with the personalities. They're all awesome, but sometimes, you know, they want to have their own space. So we have to go up there, see if Michael Simon likes the recipe that we made for him that day. And then the show happens, and the recipe gets sent out. We have everything prepped out in the kitchen, which we've prepared already. And a lot of the stuff is live, though, too. So we're in the kitchen, like, you know, searing a steak, and we have to have a steak that's seared on one side for him to be able to flip over in that segment. So we have the recipe broken down so many times. So it's really crucial to work as a team in the kitchen as well, because our kitchen is one big team, and we all help each other, like, God forbid something changes last minute. And then that happens the rest of the week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we film 2 shows a day. And then Friday is usually our day to, you know, organize, regroup, get ready for the next week. But it is a very high intensity. Every single day we're running, we're doing a lot of stuff. So it's a little crazy. But like I said to you guys before, when we've tested a recipe multiple times, maybe 5, 6 times until Michael Simon likes it, or when Mario was on the show when Mario liked it, it's rewarding then. Even though it's frustrating a little bit, it's rewarding once they finally approve it and are like, all right, that's great. And it's fun. So I don't mind the craziness and the hours. It's kind of actually an adrenaline rush. All of us in the kitchen, even though how psycho it sounds, but we're like, oh my God, yeah, we had 30 seconds to get that whisk. Like, we did it. So like at the end of the day, it's kind of fun. So
now, for you, because when I'm on air, I have 90 seconds.
Yep.
So I have a group of students that I work with, same thing, production crew, and I'm like, all right, I want this recipe prepped like this.
Exactly.
Is Michael Simon saying, I want the steak grilled like this, or do you have a different production manager that breaks down those steps for you?
So right before every show, we actually have a rehearsal. So the rehearsal is there to kind of get all the everything fixed before the show actually is live to tape. So the production team that writes the recipes walks him through that. And then we are back in the kitchen, like, going crazy, trying to get everything ready still. But they'll say, Michael, do you want to do it like this? And then he kind of tells them, we're going to do it this way. I'll have a steak ready to flip, one marinating, one this, one that. And then they come back, let us know, and then we execute it the way that he wishes. So they're very involved in that as well. They're all, Carla, Michael, and Clinton, they're all very involved. And Mario was, and so was Daphne Oz when she was on the show. But it's really whatever they say goes. It's their way or the highway. So we always have to listen to what they want.
Awesome.
So Chopped is filmed. They just moved their studio, but it's filmed in New York. It was at Chelsea Market on the 2nd floor. Walking into that set for the first time was really cool. I am definitely, I've watched 1 season of Top Chef back in the day. Chopped, I generally watch when I'm on the treadmill. I'm like watching food while I'm working out. It's a really crazy thing. But anyhow, Chopped is you show up at 5:30 in the morning. You gather Then we get a tour, kind of put your stuff away, and then they give you a full tour of the kitchen. So we've all seen the kitchen before. Then they kind of put you aside for a little bit. They do a little pre-interviews, and then you cook. Chopped is exactly as you watch it. So it is 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. Those rounds, they don't stop. They don't ask you to redo something, flip something. That was cool. There's just 100 cameras and 1 million people in that room. So you have your 4 contestants when you start. There's a film crew. See, the coolest part, what most people don't see is, or don't understand, is none of us see the show before it airs. So when it airs, that's the first time we're seeing it as well. We were there, and in my case with Chopped, I'm not paying attention to what anyone else is doing. So I have no idea what they made with their dish until I see it when it's being critiqued. They do critique the dish for quite a while. That you have to sit through. Some of that, I believe, is a little production. Somebody criticized one of my things once, and I was like, you're reaching. But anyhow, no, I'm just kidding. But there is a little production behind it. The judges, you're less interactive with them until the end. They generally try to sequester them away from you so that, you know, you always have a chaperone. Like, you have to go to the bathroom, they have to take you there, all this stuff. There's a lot of downtime. I'm sure they would all agree. There's a lot of downtime. So then they do interviews after. So I was going to kind of compound on what you had said is one of the hardest things. I mean, listen, I've been cooking for 20 years now, so I'm kind of thankful. I wanted to be on shows 10 years ago, let's call it. I don't know if I would have been as successful because I have the discipline now from an organizational standpoint. Like, there's things that you don't see, but every time on Chopped, I'm actually done about 2 minutes before the timer's done. But that's not exciting for television. So I'm very organized. Like, I'm always paying attention to the clock. That has helped me succeed on the show. I wipe down, I put my plates out, but that's boring. So they don't show that part. They show me sweating and then like throwing my arms up and things like that. That happened once. Otherwise, all the other rounds, I was pretty prepared and ready to go. But like the other show, the hardest part is the interviews because you have to speak in present tense after the fact, which is not something any of us are used to. By now, I'm really good at it. The first time that I was on, my interviews took almost 3 hours after the fact, which they try to keep it around an hour and a half to 2 hours. The second, third, and fourth time I was on, I now know how to say, I was grabbing that, I was doing this, and now I'm doing that. And that's, you have to repeat the questions. If I said to you, what's your favorite color, you have to say back to me, my favorite color is blue, because they're going to go do all the editing after the fact. So a full day, I was done at 9:30 at night, so a full day of Chopped is about 14 hours, 14, 15 hours for an hour's worth of a show, of which, like I said, the timer is accurate. So you're really only cooking for, call it a little over an hour. But the rest of it is waiting, downtime. Stations are run by unions, so they have lunch break, and then you wait, and then you go. So there's just a lot of downtime to it. The funny thing to me is I get people all the time. I've known a ton of people that have been on Chopped or Top Chef or whatnot, and it's fun to ask them their perspectives. Anybody ever ask me, like, would you do it? Would you do it again if they ask you? Yeah, I mean, I won 4 times. Why wouldn't I do it again? I just won money. Like, what's wrong with money? Like, you want money, right? But my attitude as a human being, this is why I think, like, putting into curriculum is hard, is that we all have a certain personality that fits. So don't forget I tried to be on Chopped 4 or 5 years ago. They didn't choose me, but I was persistent, and I knew that the person, and I just annoyed the hell out of them for years until I just said, my friend was on and he did terrible. Can I have a shot at that? So my attitude is like, I walk in a casino or wherever, is I walk in with this much and I walk out with the same amount, I'm fine. So I kind of looked at Chopped as, I'm going on a show, either I'm going to win 10,000, I'm going to go home with the same amount of money that's in my pocket, but I'm going to have an opportunity. Once I got done with like a round and realized I could actually compete, that's when it sort of like turned up in my head, like, wait, you have a chance to win this thing. The Champions thing, that was a 2-episode tournament, so that was 2 different times. The interesting part of the Champions is that they filmed that in 1 week. So I filmed on Tuesday of 1 week. I won the semifinal on Tuesday and then had to film the final on Friday. The gentleman, Andres, who finished second to me in the Champions one, his episode for the first round semis was on Thursday. And then he filmed Friday for the finale. So I kind of felt like that was a little unfair to him because he just filmed about 16 hours on Thursday and then has to come back and do it again. I had 2-3 days to rest in between and then go back and do it on Friday. So that's the kind of stuff you just don't really see. A lot of it, I wish there was stuff that I did on TV that they didn't show. that was really funny, or like I talked smack to Scott Conant or something. Just so you don't know, like you just don't know. They edit it, and it's really fun to watch. And that's really kind of behind the scenes of Chopped. Is the best part is I have relationships with people, the production team. So I think the coolest part, and if you spend 15 hours with people all day and there's someone who has to walk you to the bathroom, like that person, you're going to know them all day. So I've kept in touch with a couple of production people. I think one of the coolest parts of TV and food is I assume the production people that I worked with, that's all they do is food. I was way off on that. So Corey, who's a good friend of mine and worked on The Chew, she's been on Chopped. She's also done Tiny Houses, Below Deck. She's done. So they don't, like production people, these are people for hire. It is an amazing. No one actually works for the Food Network, just so everybody knows that. There's like 3 people that work for the Food Network. Everybody else works for production companies. So you'll see these kids that are on audio or camera or whatever it is, that they could be doing The Bachelor, and then they come do food, and then they go, well, next week I'm leaving for Fiji. Like there's a lifestyle behind that they have that's pretty incredible. And if they're not married and can travel a lot and do that, it's great. But yeah, anyway, it's a really fun way to look at everything. I think each show has its own uniqueness. I think similarly, our baking competition and Cutthroat are very 1 day, 2 day kind of finish it up. Top Chef is a gauntlet of something that. God bless you. I know a good amount of people. My friend Tyler Anderson was just on this season. He was off for a little bit, and then Marjorie, who's in DC, I've talked to her, and I was like, "Would you do it again?" She's like, "Hell no, I hated it." So I think though, what if I had to like today, and with a message for students, and there aren't really any in the room, but if there was one, is that when somebody presents you with an opportunity, if you have the personality to want to do it, I have some friends that are amazing chefs and have no personality and don't ever want to do anything on TV. Is that if somebody presents you with an opportunity and it's just that, just go for it. Just take it. And I hate to quote this because I can't really stand her, but who was it? It was like Cardi B or someone, one of those people. They said, I take everything I can get. No, I'm sorry. Anybody watch Bravo? It was Erica Jane on Real Housewives. She said, sorry, I'm very domesticated at this point. But Erica Jane, she said, I don't say no to anything. I say yes to everything because one day people are going to stop asking. And I found that like it's really true, is that I will say yes to everything as long as I can do it. I'm also learning you can't say yes to everything because you can't be in 2 places at once. But
I think I have the same problem with you. People that work here, they're like, you always say yes. I'm like, well, when you stop asking me, that's when I know I'm in trouble.
Yeah, and if you say no enough times, people will stop asking you. So you kind of got to look at everything as an opportunity, and it's just TV. And I was I got asked to do Hell's Kitchen years ago, and I went out to L.A., and I was like, cool, I've never been to L.A., and they sequester you, and I didn't even see L.A. I'm really glad I didn't get that show, because that's a very, very, they edit it, and they make you look like a certain thing in person, and that can be detrimental to your career. So Chopped works for me. It was a great experience. I have nothing but good things to say about it. I think it's extremely accurate. Yeah. Anyway.
No, that's awesome. Now, I have a slight personal question about Chopped, and I've always wondered, since I watch it too, a treadmill type of guy as well. On the episodes when you're watching, you hear the judges speaking. Are you able to hear what they're saying, or is it so loud or so busy in the kitchen that you can't hear?
No, you hear them. It's funny because, like I said, my personality is like I'm not paying attention to what someone's doing next to me, but I can hear everything going on. It's like, I'm sure all chefs know, like you kind of like have that, those eyes behind your head kind of thing, and you can hear because you're expediting and your back's to people, and you just have that. I heard them saying things at times, and I truly took their advice. I mean, they're good chefs. Like people always ask me my judges. Like I had Scott Conant 3 times, Amanda Freitag I think almost every time. They're both awesome people, really good people. Scott Conant's gone out of his way to like ask me if I need anything with my restaurant. Like very much. I ran into him at an event. I did Burger Bash in New York, and they had a little chop section. And Ted Allen and I are close-ish, text, whatever, and he helped me out. And Scott just came up. He goes, "How's the restaurant going?" And like very, in a Tom kind of way, like takes the time to actually ask something about me. I didn't have any bad experiences with the judges. I think they're great people, and they They truly care. Like, they know. The coolest part is that the production of the show is so good that it is a show you can kind of rewatch and like go to the gym and it just kind of, it's on and you just kind of watch it. But they know they're kind of making a difference in people's lives. They know that this can affect people. Now, the crazy thing about Chopped, and I love the memes and things on Twitter about it, is like my first episode I went on, I was paying for my wedding. So I had like a very positive sort of outlook, and the three people next to me, like, I'm not, like, it was like a dependency on alcohol. Somebody else's, somebody died in their family. So I had said to the production when they asked me in an interview, they said, "How do you think you're doing?" And I said, "Listen, like, I understand if this girl wins because like she needs the money." And I'm not saying in a way like more than I do, but like her circumstances were horrible, and I felt for her. And I said, if how does she not win if you don't have a heart? Like, how? And they said, we can't do that. Like, we have to. It's all about the food, because the minute we do that, the credibility of our show is ruined. And we have ran Chopped for, it's like they do like 2 or 3 seasons a year, so it's up to like 30 something. But they just keep finding these like themed competitions do really well. The kids. Like pros, and the last one I did was a charity one, so I went up against like Joe versus Pro, somebody else. It was all different like competition people that had won before, but yeah, I mean it's accurate. I mean, it's just very accurate to the show, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Chris Santos came up here, and he was a guest of the university, and he actually took time out of his day to judge a student competition.
Nice.
And took some of us chefs out afterwards, and he was an incredible guy. So I understand what you're saying about being real personable and how is this? What can we do to help you with this?
I think they kind of look at themselves like, wow, we're judges. Like, I don't think any of them take themselves so seriously. I think Scott Conant, whoever, they look at it as an opportunity the same way I'm talking, is that I would love to do more TV. Like, I actually, and it's not because it's about my ego, I actually enjoy the process. Like, I enjoy meeting the crews and seeing how it works. And so I enjoy that part. Other people, it's just like a laborious long day and it's really hard. But yeah, they're genuinely, I think, like, Chris Santos went to school, he just wanted to be a chef. He owns restaurants. The guy, but he's like, wow, look at this. Like, this is crazy. So I think they look at it the same way we do, where it's like it was an opportunity. They're amazed this ever, because TV wasn't a thing. It wasn't, I got paid $26,000 my first sous chef job, and there was no opportunity out there to do things like that. Providence Oyster Bar, Atwells Avenue.
I think I was one of your customers.
I was the guy. Might have been.
Probably.
Yeah. They pay really well. No, I'm just kidding.
So to bring things back home to Johnson Wales, if you guys ever had the opportunity to come be a teacher here, what class, either that wasn't curriculum when you were a student here, or if you could create a class, dream class, what would you love to teach? We'll start with you.
I would teach New World cuisine, or yeah, I mean, I just love or Old World cuisine, and kind of focus on that area. I just loved that class when I was here.
Who'd you have as a teacher for that?
I forget her name. She would freak out if I said that, but I remember. I'm a face person. I remember her as a teacher. She was great, but yeah, I can't really think of her name. That's what I would be.
I'll let that one slide.
Yeah.
I would make up my own class, and it would probably be called Real Life Restaurant. And the class would run for 15 hours a day on really terrible floors, so your feet and your back hurt, and most of it would be cleaning. What we do.
I like that. You can run my class at the end of the year when we have to deep clean. Absolutely.
I would be happy to.
Please, anytime, chef. Josh?
That's funny that you ask. So I come from a family of educators, and it's kind of always been a dream of mine to come back and teach at some point. Not ready yet, but sometime down the line. Yeah, I guess I'm not picky. I mean, I've done kind of a little bit of everything in the pastry world, and I really enjoy any of it. So wherever they're hiring.
Now, in our pastry world here, there's that clear divide between bread.
Yeah, I don't really do
sweets.
bread, so.
No bread for you?
I love bread. I loved bread class. I mean, I spent every day just eating carbs. But just it takes a lot of patience and like crazy amounts of organization. I mean, if you're doing bread production, you're down to like, your day is planned to the minute, you know. And I kind of like the craziness of a lot of things going on. So
Awesome.
Well, my favorite class, I think, was traditional European cuisine when I was here. And I think it would be cool to have a class maybe, you know, where you're doing a certain cuisine, but then it's almost like a timed thing. So it's almost like you're timed like on a show. Like, I think that'd be cool to like incorporate that and really, you know, teach the students, like, you really have to be very organized and you have to be on top of it. And then, like, you're almost judged by the chef or whoever your teacher is kind of at the end of the day. I don't know. I thought that'd be cool.
Awesome.
I like Stacy's answer. That was pretty cool. Yeah, real life. I mean, I would say in life, like, I wish when I was in like middle school and high school, I would have had a class on like money management and how to balance a checkbook, life stuff. But realistically, I think here, my favorite class, this is always surprising to people, was storeroom. And it actually was my first class. It was my first class at Johnson & Wales. I met my best friend. He was my best man at my wedding. First class, we got paired up together. We were both here on a mission to do well in school. The one thing I'll say about Johnson & Wales, and probably like the older I get, I feel like it can go to any field really, but Johnson & Wales provides you an opportunity to be the best student you want to be. So let me be clear on that. I went to school with a lot of people that wrote checks and didn't work hard here. I did that at Syracuse, so I don't blame them. I get it. I came here at 20, so I wasn't just kind of clueless. I came here on a mission. I got out of this school everything I wanted to get out of it. So the important thing, and we talked about this before we came up here, is that I was here for 2 years. That flies by. And the fact that other students don't take advantage of the little extracurricular classes or whatever it is they can do to get involved is all they're doing is just gathering knowledge and education. And the more you can do that, the more you can go after. So if somebody's goal is to be a sous chef, that's great. But if you're only a cook and you don't know how to do the numbers and you don't know how to manage people, you're going to max out at, call it $55,000 a year. And if that's something you're comfortable with, that's fine. I was not. So I had a plan after sort of ish that I wanted to do food, and then I wanted to go into business, and I wanted to bring that back together. I fortunately worked for the right groups and had the right mentors and people to tell me kind of which direction I was going and how I would do that. So I think just kind of giving students that background. But the reason storeroom was my favorite was that I had already worked in a restaurant, Italian mostly. I knew I wanted to go work in restaurants, but it exposed me to products and things that I had never seen. So I had seen balsamic vinegars and all these things in Italian, but I hadn't seen cherimoya and all these things. So identification, seeing all this product come in. Then when I went out to my job in Providence after school, when this stuff came in, I knew what it was. I knew what I was looking at. And that sort of gave me the insight to say, oh, I know what we can do with that. Or I think, and believe me, I didn't have ideas then. I just was a cook. So I did whatever they told me. But I think when you're exposed to more things, just like traveling and culture, it just opens your mind. And really, the most amazing thing to me now that I've seen in the industry is a lot of my chef friends or successful chefs, pastry, whatever, they come from this background of like education. And I know someone who was going to be an architect, or these two guys in DC, they worked at Nassau and they opened up a rum distillery. And so this is no longer like, well, I fell into the chef world and I'm an idiot and I just, it was a job. It's a lot of times now people are very focused on how to be artistic and use this ability we have as chefs to carry like a real career and be intelligent about it. And some of the stuff that's coming out of these kitchens, plus in 2018, we have to learn to manage differently. And I think the biggest thing is once you become a chef, the knife may get out of your hand a little more. And now you're talking about how to lead a team and lead people. And those are values and things that at Johnson & Wales, working on a team and working with people you may not like or whatever it is, those things, that doesn't change today. I mean, I'm 20 years in this business, and sort of like Stacy said with her classes, it's Groundhog's Day every day. We clean a walk-in, we label everything, we bring product in, we check it in, we do service, we clean up, and we literally have checklists so everybody does the same thing every day. If you don't mind that, that's what this industry is made up of. It's really not that complicated, but it is a lot of hard work.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I know you have to go to Taste of Jebu, but I can want to say thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you over there.
Thank you. Yeah.
But we can open this up for questions from the audience for the remainder of our panel. All right, sir.
I'm a huge foodie, and I appreciate everyone on this panel. You guys are amazing. But you guys you're artists. So when you're on these shows, they're somewhat manufactured. And my question is twofold. I have a son who's 19, big foodie like his dad. We cook, we do all this wonderful stuff. He is addicted to all these food shows. And I said to him, that's not real world. It's a piece of real world. Oh, Dad, you don't know nothing. Only because you went to Johnson, you went for business anyway. So he took a job during the summer, and he worked 80 hours a week. He said, Dad, I'm not going to be a chef. Because the shows didn't show the real work and the craftsmanship of what you guys do. How do you deal with that? I mean, I see the glamour. It's all produced, so whatever the producer says to get more ratings, if you sweat more, if you kick the table 3 times, you're most likely going to be on the show if the rating says, we like her. But how do you do as craftsmen, as artisans in your work, now look at that and then go back to the real world of working your 80 hours a week and at the end of the day of having someone say, that was a great meal? How do you manage that?
I immediately want to answer that question. These shows, for someone as all of us are, is artistic, and it's not something like a painter isn't going to paint the perfect painting in 30 minutes from out of nowhere. That's not how it works. So I know for myself that was the hardest thing for me going into the show, because I put more thought into things. I'm more of a planner. Like, I think about a dish. I mean, I just had a dish on my menu this past winter that I've been working on in my head for 4 years. So it's not really realistic, and I think for Top Chef, that's kind of where they fail, because you have these people going on this show that, I mean, again, I wasn't prepared either. I didn't watch it. I didn't know what I was getting into. But you have these people going on this show that are already nervous because there's cameras in front of you and there's all this stuff going on. And then they say, okay, you got 30 minutes. And the time on Top Chef is real. And the emotion is real. But, like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to make something brand new that just popped into my head right now in 30 minutes, and it's going to be the most perfect dish I've ever made. That's not how it works, and that's not how cooking works, because you're always testing and striving, just like your job, to be better, you know, and to have the perfect dish. And I think that's where these shows fail.
I'll go next. I think for me, I had to separate the two. I knew that this was my career, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I love. And that now I'm going onto a TV show that's different from what I do in the kitchen every day. And I knew that I was going onto television, that their goal is to have good ratings, to make money. Like, that's what they do. And I got that. And I think that was really important for me to realize that that's what I was stepping into. And had to approach it in a different way of, this is a way for me to kind of showcase what I'm doing. Yes, it's different from what I do in the kitchen every day, and yeah, it's kind of this different world. But knowing that going in made it much easier for me.
I think for Chopped, I'm a little different than Stacy. I've been workshopping a lot because I'm opening a restaurant. Like today, I know they gave me the questions ahead of time. I read them and then didn't answer them in my head because I'm better off script. So that fits me. So when you open the basket on Chopped and you have to go, that fits me. I've been cooking, again, for 20 years. So when I see a decal of beef, I know to run for the grinder, you know, because I got 30 minutes. So my mind works fast enough to comprehend that. The difference on Chopped is, like, I wouldn't put a lot of those ingredients together, but there are basics, like there's a checklist in your brain of sweet, savory, acidic, crunch, fat. Like, there's all these things we think about texturally. So in that basket, they have thought about that. So even though you may get beef gummy bears and some weird, lollipop or something, they do understand they've put an acidic component, something with texture. They know, and don't get me wrong, the judges, they do those after hours things. They equally have a hard time with it because it is a little weird. I mean, you're trying to do, but kind of like Stacy said, you're almost just trying to do better than the other kind of okay thing. I mean, there's a lot of things I've made on that show that I wouldn't necessarily order for dinner, as far as, like, I want a big bowl of that. But there's stuff that I know I've made that I was really proud of that I was able to do in like 30 minutes. I do want to thank your son for doing what he did, because what our industry needs is dedicated people. Your son going and getting a job and trying it is extremely intelligent. That's why I went and got a job after Syracuse, was to see if I wanted to go be a chef. I sit here today telling you I love my job and love my industry just as much as I did when I was 18, probably if not more, because I just feel smarter. I just feel like I have this knowledge and education, and maybe I'm a little wiser or whatever it is. But the idea of you got to be a little crazy. You got to, like, I'm okay that I've missed some holidays. I'm okay that I've missed some birthdays. I go to the movies at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday and nobody's there. Like, I like to live in a little world of seclusion when I'm not in a restaurant. So for me, my off hours are really fun for me because the rest of the world, you guys are not there. You're like going to a supermarket on a Sunday just seems like madness to me. I would never do that. So I chose my life. I didn't fall into it. So I still love it. But I applaud your son because, and I'm not going to sit here, millennials and this, I want to relate with people I want to hire. So I have to figure out how to relate to them. The problem is you get people that come in and they want a job and then don't show up. Or they want a job and then realize it's hard after the fact. And listen, that's going to happen. I'm not saying they're wasting my time. But what I would tell kids is go out there and get a job. If you're here at Johnson & Wales, there's so many good restaurants in Providence you can go work at where people will give you a foundation and you will know whether you can withstand it. Is when this industry doesn't take long for people to want to beat you down and tell you, whether it's your cooks next to you or your sous chefs generally, that want to tell you like, hey, be back tomorrow. You just got your butt kicked all night tonight and come back tomorrow and we'll see you then. Now, back in the day when I worked in Providence, I had to show up at work at 11 in the morning, couldn't clock in till 3. It's highly illegal these days. But those were the things we used to do back in the day. But I really, like, honestly, tell your son thank you, because I think that's what we need more of is intelligent decisions made before people walk in the door and want a job. And hiring right now it's really hard. It's a really, really hard market. So, yeah, your son is right. It's not the real world on TV. It's all glitter and gold. And it's, it's sort of like social media. If you all go on my Instagram, I am the happiest, coolest person alive. And I go home and get yelled at by my wife like everybody else. So it's not reality, guys. It's really not reality, but it is a lot of fun. That's for sure.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions, sir?
Okay. I have a question for Chef Stacy. That's your name, Stacy, right? Did you get paid for not being around for 3 months from your family and everything? Did they pay you at all for that?
No. No. Not even 1 cent. The show did not. No. And again, I knew none of this going into it. You sign it when you go on Top Chef, you go through all of this like interviewing. I met Andy Cohen, and at the time I was like, oh my God, I love Andy Cohen. But Andy Cohen only wanted to talk about living in Boston and being a Bostonian and why don't I have more of an accent and, being the all-American girl with the fiance that's in the Marines and being shipped away. Like, that's all they really wanted to talk about. They didn't tell me anything. Like, I didn't know. So then they hand me this contract. And luckily it's over, so I can talk about it. I literally had to sign $1 million contract that I would have been sued for $1 million had I talked about the show. Did that keep me quiet? No. But I took my chances and I rolled the dice. But, you don't, for Top Chef, I think maybe now, this was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe now it's different. I know Adam and I were talking before the show, and I know that they've cut the production time down as well. But I did not get paid. My boss did not pay me. My boss said to me, go do it. If you do this, you'll get 5% of the increase in sales that we get at the restaurant. But as being young and naive, yeah, good joke. Being young and naive, that wasn't the case because we didn't sign anything. So the restaurant's getting busy as the show's airing because I'm home. And all of a sudden I'm like, hey, where's my money? Like, I see the sales. I keep track of, all of the financials. Where's my money? Oh, well, you didn't sign anything. So the good things it does, though, like, I was approached by a publication company, and I was able to write a cookbook. Did I see money from that? I mean, sure, in the beginning, but after that, no. You know, it's not. It should never be about the money.
What do they give out? What's the award? I haven't seen the show in a long time.
I mean, if you win, you get like $100,000, and you get featured at Food and Wine in Aspen or so. I don't really know. I made it exactly halfway, so after that, I was like, I don't care. I didn't even watch it. Like, I don't care what happens. But the main thing that they want you to take out of that, and I truly do believe in this, is that the Top Chef family. So there are other contestants. My pastry chef right now is on Top Chef Desserts. I think that's a thing, right? I don't know. She says it's a thing, so and I don't get to watch a lot of TV.
She's on vacation for 3 months. That's
Yeah. You know, and there's a lot of other Top Chef alums in Boston or everywhere that, you know, you go into their restaurant and it is like a family. So the takeaway from it is you're entering into this family of people that went through the same thing you went through. And it's really networking. It's, you know, whether it's good or bad, however they portray you, you're still out there. So while the show was airing, I'd try to go food shopping on my day off on a Tuesday, you know, and I hadn't showered and, you know, I'm basically in my pajamas. Then all of a sudden, people are walking up to me, and this was immediately when it was airing, and stupid me didn't even think to just stay home. People are walking up to me going, "Oh my God, how's Robbie?" That's my fiance, because he was, you know, they did a Skype call with him and I, and so I think I know this person. I'm like, "Oh, it's good, he's home," you know, blah, blah. And then they're like, "We love you on the show," and I'm like, "Oh, Jesus. Okay, cool. I'm going to go now and go hide in my apartment. Thanks." So it's not about the money. You do it to either, A, challenge yourself, see if you can. I mean, that's kind of the main reason why I did it. Like, can I do this? I don't know. But I'm going to try, and it's either going to work or it's not. And either way, it's fine with me. I mean, I didn't go on to win. There were people on my season that were there, and they had their eyes on the prize. They were like, "I'm getting that $100,000, and that's it." For me, I was just like, well, I just want to see what I can actually do, you know?
I think one thing I wanted to bring up with relation to your question is the one thing Top Chef does better than any other show is that you don't have to win. And if that, you don't have to win, if that kind of makes sense. So I was on Chopped. I won a bunch of money. It's awesome. My phone isn't ringing off the hook, guys. Like let's keep this in perspective of Chopped is a show. You go on, you compete, you're done, you go back to work the next day, literally, and you're probably film all day, and you're like got a race to get back the next day. And also, by the way, usually filming is about 10 months before it airs, 8 to 10 months. So you have to hold on to that secret for 8 to 10 months because, like her, I signed an ND. I'm sitting on one right now, okay, guys? So Food Network, check it out in July, August, maybe. Different show, though. Anyhow, point is that what Top Chef and my friends that have been on is, like, I'm sitting here going, wait, I've won Chopped 4 times. And my buddy is getting more press and more opportunities for finishing, like, he got in 3 weeks of Top Chef. What's that about? Meaning what they do is they do create this family, and they create such a great PR marketing around Top Chef that the other shows, sort of when you're done with Chopped or the Food Network, you're done. Like, they don't do anything for you. And with all due respect to them, is, again, I told you before, these are all production companies that work for the Food Network. The Food Network doesn't, my wife is in social media marketing, so she is like all over that stuff and understands it. The Food Network doesn't promote Chopped, winners, things like that. Like, I don't get invited to Food Network, Food and Wine, beach things that, like, Marcus goes to and those people. They have their cast of judges, and then there's competitors. The cast of judges are way more important to them. It's sort of like the coaches are the celebrities, and the competition people, we just are there to compete and play, which is great, again. But what Top Chef does for them is give them a little more opportunity after the fact to do something a little more substantial with their career, whether it's a cookbook or a show or going to Aspen Food and Wine, and still they stay in contact with them and maybe bring them back for other competitions. So yeah,
I still hear from the producers from
awesome.
Top Chef, and
Yeah.
it was like 5 years ago. You know, they do create this huge PR thing to the point where I actually don't use social media anymore because of Top Chef.
Right.
Because with the good comes the absolute worst of society. And there's nothing like going on your Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram and have someone who lives in like friggin' Bali just shooting you down.
Actually, one of my favorite things to do during an episode is read Twitter about, like, oh, he should have won, and then I write, me too. I thought he should have won too. So I actually like being trolled, but I get it. Yeah, I have to go to the taste thing. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. One more question, please. No. I think we have time for one more.
All right. How are you all doing? I'd first like to say that if anyone has any questions about Chris Santos, these three ladies graduated with him. They know all the dirt. But no, the question that is kind of formulating when you all talking about rigor, talking about, dependability, things like that. Maybe it's my own theory, but I tend to feel that in some way, these shows kind of have broken that down in the industry. And I'm just wondering if you can speak to kind of and obviously in deference to you, Michele, you seem to have quite a bit of rigor in your life and you're all set. But do you feel that's true? And if so, why or why not?
You start, because I don't fully understand the question.
I'm going to be a real jerk. I don't fully understand the question. And I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but what I will say, what I think TV has done to the industry, and
Is it a positive or a negative influence?
I feel like it's a negative influence, which is why last year I came to Johnson Wales to speak to classes. And, the first thing I said when the whole class stopped and they all gathered around, I said, so what are you going to do after graduation? And there are all these high hopes and dreams. And I looked at them all and I was like, you're going to be my $12 an hour dishwasher. And it sounds really harsh, but this industry is harsh. And I feel like the one thing, I love Johnson & Wales. I love it. But the one thing that they could have done better was prepare for that transition to real world. When you graduate, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to do all these things. And then you go to the real world and you're like, oh, cool. So I'm Garmager Cook 3, not even 1, and I'm making $10 an hour. And I'm working my butt off, I think TV has produced this new generation of kids that are like, I'm going to be Mario Batali, and it's going to be so easy. And it makes it look so easy. And it's not. It's not. Everyone who's on TV, from all the chefs, Alton Brown and all these people, they worked really hard to get to where they are. And it's no different than working in a kitchen. You work extremely hard and under all the pressure. So, I think it's created this generation of kids that think that, oh, this is an easy job. I can go do that. In all reality, it's one of the hardest jobs you can do.
Yeah, we really make them pretty, because I know from my standpoint, you work in the Chew kitchen, it seems so fun, it seems so cool, but we run it like a real kitchen in there, so we're there before and after those chefs are even in the studio. We're the ones that are working really hard, and sometimes we feel like they don't see it as much because they're just in there to try the recipe, make sure it looks good, and then when they're on TV, it's all finished for them. Exactly. People don't realize that at all, and we are really working hard. And I've worked in restaurants before too, and there's been times where you know what, you just have to suck it up even if you want to cry, and it's hard. And we're doing dishes in the kitchen as well at the Chew. We're doing a bunch of stuff, and people don't realize that. And as glamorous as it looks, maybe more for the hosts on the show, but sometimes people even ask us, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" We are still cleaning dishes on our hands and knees, doing things on the floor. It's not as glamorous as it seems, but at the end of the day, when everyone's happy, the payoff is great. But it is. There's interns that have come into our kitchen right out of culinary school that think, oh, this is so cool. But we've all put time into restaurant kitchens as well. So they kind of just, don't know the basis and, the pecking order kind of a thing going on where you have to respect and put your time in.
Yeah, I'll talk to the flip side of that. I think that, yeah, there's negative things that have come out of it. But there's also this positive thing where kind of the chef from Food Network is kind of, being a chef has kind of been elevated to almost like a celebrity status. And I think that it's done great things for the restaurant industry, just with the amount of jobs that have been created because people see things on Food Network and now they want to go and try it. And there's so many shows on Food Network that highlight different restaurants. And just from being on the show that I was on, we saw a lot of business from that, where people would have not known about a restaurant and not come in without having that kind of that outlet. Yeah, it's a different world. It's kind of this false reality, and they make it pretty and exciting. And then going back to the whole thing of creating this false reality it's always been like that for chefs, like for kids coming out of culinary school, even 15, 20, 30 years ago, that they thought that they were going to be going into into the kitchen and they'd be in charge, and then they get, a dose of reality and you start from the bottom and work your way up. So I don't think that's necessarily a new thing.
Yeah, I feel like there's always the good and the bad with everything. And for me too, because of the Chew, I've been able to be behind the camera and in front of the camera as well. And I've been able to go to Disney and film some things and all this stuff. And a few weeks ago, some girl messaged me on Instagram, was like, because of your segment that I saw you on, I was able to, really pursue my career in food styling. I was like, this is so random. Like, I don't know who this girl is, but I'm happy, that I was at least able to help someone or inspire someone. So with the good, also, there's good things and bad things, but those are the parts that are positive that come out of it too with social media.
I do think I agree with the good. And I think one thing, besides having this slew of youngins coming in being like, I'm going to be your sous chef, and you're like, nope. The good is that what these cooking shows have done for the American food culture has really raised it to where, 20 years ago, American food culture was just starting to creep up. 25 years ago, it wasn't really that great. And now it puts all these American chefs on the forefront and shows, it's sort of like wine, old world, new world, right? So we're all still the new world here in America, and it's raised what we do to a different status. We're not looked at as just the help anymore. It's actually a respected industry. So I think that is the one good thing.
Now, I know we can go for a long time, but we do have to wrap this up so we can get over to the taste. Chefs, I greatly appreciate you taking time away from restaurants, from your jobs, to come down here and talk to our alumni. So thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you. So he says thank you to everybody, but I have to say thank you to him for putting this together. So let's give him a round of applause. Chef John, our local celebrity, even though he doesn't like to admit that he is. I'm sure you go food shopping and all the ladies are like, Chef John, oh my goodness, show me what I should buy.
My target audience is 65-year-old women and firefighters. That's all who watches my show. So.
Okay. Well, awesome. I'll ask you then the next time I see you at the market. What should I buy? I don't do the cooking at home, so it would be over my head. But thank you so much to our chefs. Really, really appreciate the time that you've taken out, Adam and Chef David, who had to run over to Taste, and that's where we're all heading. So I wanted to let you know buses are running, so if you are relying on Wildcat wheels, that is what we call them now, you can head over towards the Wildcat Center. There is the bus shelter. It runs every 15 minutes. You want to take the bus that says Harbor View, and the next one is 11:45, but don't worry about it if you don't get that one. The next one is 12. It is beautiful out, so you could take a leisurely stroll to get there, no running and falling and all that good stuff, because there will be another one. If you have any questions, if there's a bus that pulls up, the bus drivers are super friendly and they'll be able to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, we'll see you over there. Thank you again to our wonderful panel. Any other questions, feel free to stop over and see them before everyone exits. Thank you.